How to make a web design questionnaire quick and easy for free. Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we will be taking a look at what are some of the questions that you should be asking as a web designer and what are some of the questions that you might be asking and you might actually be shooting yourself in the foot because those questions can be super uninviting or certain questions that, your customers or your clients don't understand and you can be asking those things in a most friendly manner. However, because your customer or your client is not understanding what you're trying to ask, they just get a bit too confused or overwhelmed to be able to, properly answer that. And you can turn potential leads into, dead ends because you did not know how to properly ask the questions. So this is something to keep in mind and spend some time with. So take a good view of your potential leads. You want to make sure that whenever you are looking at your leads, you know the exact things that you must say to get them to hire you as their web designer and what kind of specific questions you should ask. And we will be doing a quick overview of those questions. So first off, what are the good questions that you should ask? And this is very essential to know because let's say that you're a web designer. All of a sudden, you have a client approaching you that is saying, "Hey, I want a website and, what can you do for me?" Now, instead of just being like, "Okay, I build a website, I can build you a website. What kind of website do you want?" This is just going to be a very generic answer and you're going to be stuck in a small talk kind of conversation. If you want to expand your conversation, you need to ask more direct and specific questions. Now, on my list of questions that you should be asking to your web design customers or potential leads, do you have any example websites that you like? So that is a very amazing question to ask simply because it gives you as a web designer, a good reference of what you are trying to make. Now, make sure that you are not copying anything. That is not what you're here to do. You don't want to copy anything, but it gives you a example website, the website that they look up to, what they would kind of, like to emulate, not copy, but emulate the certain vibe, aesthetic feel, or content layouts of that website. The second thing you need to ask as a web designer is, do you have a website already? And is there anything you want to carry over to your new website? So for example, I have a website that posts food recipes. Now, if I, get started from scratch, build their entire, new website and I scratch all the content that they previously had, I am going to run into some trouble because I will have to remake all that content and formulate it and do that. So if there is any kind of pre-existing information, pre-existing content that the creator or your client or your lead wants to get to their new website, you want to make sure that you already know that. The next thing you want to add is, do you have a logo or colors or style that you want? Or are you open to revamping the website? Now, a lot of the times these people do have logos and those logos are super unprofessional or they're just cheaply made and they show in the overall, setting. So what you can do is that you can offer this as a upsell. You can be like, "Hey, I've noticed that your logo could use some improvements. If you want, we could revamp it for you and you can add additional costs to that as well." And this is going to be a great way to offer multiple services. But if your client already has a good logo, you don't want to try to upsell them in that situation. And if they have a certain color scheme preference, then you also want to make sure that you make sure to comply with that scheme reference as long as it, fits or matches within the overall website content. The next thing you want to make sure to ask them is, do you want any special functions? So be as specific. Don't be like, "Hey, do you want this in your website?" No, that is going to sound unprofessional or it's just going to sound a bit too blunt. You want to make sure to ask them and give them options like, "Hey, you wanted a blog, but do you also want to add a subscription section for your website? Do you want a special contact form? Do you want a booking section in your website?" So be very specific of the different functions that you can provide as a web designer. So if you have any kind of special functions that you provide or that the customer or your lead wants, you want to make sure that you have all of these specifications. Now, the next question that you want to ask to your potential lead is that, what is the main purpose of your website? And this is super essential because you're designing the website to be able to optimize it for the potential customers or clients or leads that it's going to get. And if it's like, let's say that someone wants a portfolio website, then you're going to design it accordingly, according to what people that are looking at portfolios want to see. If you're trying to sell a product on that website, if it's a product selling website, e-commerce website, then you're going to structure that website differently. So it's very essential that you make sure that you know the main purpose of their website. If they're looking for e-commerce, if they're looking to get signups, if they're looking to get leads, if they just want a simple presence online. That is very essential to know whenever you are building a website. Now, the next question you should ask is, how many pages would you like to see? Now, don't be blunt and be like, how many pages do you want? That sounds very blunt, and it doesn't really translate well with people that are not well versed in web design. People that don't know much about web design will feel like, hey, what does this even mean? Instead, you want to ask, how many pages would you like to see? I could do your home page, your contact us page, your services page, and your product page. So just give them the options that they would have in a normal website of the purpose that they are creating, and then they can, then the customer or lead better understands the pages that you are referring to and how many that they want. Now you want to make sure to ask them whether they are in the USA, just for payment issues, confirm with them how they're going to pay you. Then you also want to ask them, do you have hosting and domain? If they don't, you're going to add additional costs for that as well. And then you also want to ask, do you or an employee want to edit the website later on? And if so, what is your experience? So you don't want, a employee of the website building lead to just, mess up the website that you created. You want to be able to translate it for them and to be able to help them out if they want to make any of their own custom edits. Then you're going to ask them in the end of your questionnaire, is there anything else you want me to know or see about your new website? So any kind of additional requests that they might be thinking about or any questions that they might have can easily be added in this section. Now moving on to things you should not ask and good upsells. So you want to ask if they want SEO boosters, if you want someone to write content for their website on a regular basis, or if you would like help, if they would, like help with social media. These are easy upsells that most people will go for. But there are certain things you should not be asking those leads, which is, what kind of fonts do you want to see? That is a very lame question, because people just look at the font. They don't really know the name or, anything. As long as the font looks good, people really don't mind whatever font you are using. Now, next up, you also don't want to ask how many pages. That is just too rude. It's not professional and it doesn't translate well with your leads. Thirdly, you don't want to ask, what's your budget? You want to give them a ballpark around of what you're going to charge them, not ask directly for budgets, simply because people don't know how expensive web design can be. Then you don't want to ask, when are you looking to have your website finished? This can lead to unrealistic deadlines. If you ask the question, the person will just be like, hey, I want it done in a week. And that is something that you might not be able to do. And because you asked the question, they thought of it and they don't understand web design, so they just give you an inflated due date. You can give them a ballpark estimation of the price that you're going to charge them, plus a estimation how long of a time period it will take for you to build a website of good quality with those features. And you don't want to ask them, what kind of builder or features or slider would you like to see? It's just very simple. You're going to be using WordPress and the available plugins for their website. So that was it for today. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will catch you guys in the next video.